we want to ensure that compensation increases are within the budget for the biennium in which they are granted and do not exceed normal growth rates for future biennia. We need to manage the timing of cost of living increases to restrain future roll-up costs. While this always cannot be done, there is an issue in terms of when you put together a package if some of the increases occur very late in the biennium. If they occur very late in the biennium, the roll-up on those costs can be substantial in future biennium because you're only paying for a few months in one biennium and then you have to pay for 24 months in the following. Also, any cost of living increases for employees of organizations reliant on state general fund should follow the same rules as increases for state employees. That's actual in-house jargon for saying those entities that are very dependent upon state funding for their operations should adopt some of these principles also. Those are entities like school districts, those are entities like our universities and community colleges, and to some extent those are entities of counties where we contract for services with the counties to perform various state functions. We should limit the economic issues in collective bargaining agreements with the state for 2 years. That's so that we actually do not get agreements that actually commit future legislatures to levels of funding. Next, we should change the collecting bargaining process to even-numbered years so the governor's budget proposal includes the full cost of increases for the upcoming biennium. This is something that we would need to transition into. The current process right now, which most of you are familiar with, is we set a certain amount of money in the budget aside for collective bargaining agreements. Those collective bargaining agreements sometimes are actually reached before we actually leave this building. Many times in the past and in recent times have been settled after. So we find the actual cost of those collective bargaining agreements after we have actually left the building. We would have to actually give some indication to the executive branch of the range in this. But in this particular scenario, if we were able to do this, we would arrive in this building to do the next biennial budget, knowing what the cost would be for the various collective bargaining agreements. And for clarification here, just for all the members here to understand this, but whatever we reach normally in these collective bargaining agreements are the same increases that pretty standardly, though it does not have to be that way, that those state employees who are not in collective bargaining agreements reach, or receive. Second, the final item are two items. One is to require legislative approval for the following before they can be implemented. These are the two items. They're both a little bit controversial, but I should explain both of them in a little bit of detail. To require